So, good morning, everyone from the Divine Family. I, on behalf of the Divine Family, Sabyak Murli Club Season 2, would like to welcome our special guest speaker today for the masterclass, BK Brother Dan Bhai from Australia. Brother Dan Bhai has 22 years of experience in Rajyoga Meditation, and by profession, he is LLB, BA Honors and BCom, a practicing lawyer prior to coming to the meditation. And as a lawyer, he has served as barrister and solicitor to the High Court of New Zealand in 2006, and then practiced in Australia as an Australian lawyer and in 2007, and he has rendered legal services, selfless services for around 7 years in not-for-profit organization, which is committed to, provide free legal services to some of the most vulnerable and disadvantaged people, underprivileged people in the community in Australia. At the same time, Brother Dan was also coordinating the kitchen services at the BK Retreat Center in Melbourne. And that's the special service, which Baba says the kitchen service is the foundation of any center. In late 2015, Brother Dan has also part of a service project in India, in Delhi, the capital city, Delhi, for around 6 months. Brother Dan was in Delhi for this service, and currently brother is serving full time at the Brahma Kumaris national headquarters, and is the secretary for the BK Brahma Kumaris in Australia at Sydney, and also part of the management team for the main center in 5 Dock, Sydney. So welcome to you, Brother Dan Bhai, to this elite club for the masterclass session today. And so without further ado, may I now request Brother Dan from Australia to share his views on the topic friendship with the divine. That's a supreme friendship. Khuda dost, Baba says. So I'm sure it will all enlighten all of us. And thank you, brother. And please, all yours to come as a session. Thank you.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Om Bhai, for the warm introduction, and Sister Raki for organizing for me to be able to join with everyone. And I don't know, maybe there's 1 or 2 people that I've had the chance to meet in India. I'm not sure if any of us have met before, but having been going there for so many years, chances are that there's 1 or 2 people that I know. So the topic friendship with the divine made me think of a few things, but I'm also quite happy during this session if people want to unmute themselves and ask any questions as we go along. That's quite okay with me, because I know we've got some time at the end for Q&A, but sometimes it's also easier while it's in your mind just to sing out and ask, or elaborate or share your experience about a particular point. It doesn't per se have to be a question, but I feel we're one divine family, and I'm quite happy to hear your experiences and views about things as well. So please do feel free to share. And I have a couple of things that were coming to my mind on this topic, friendship with the divine. Because especially in Sakar Murli and in days of Baba and Mama, the emphasis has always been 3 relationships, right? Father, teacher, and Sat Guru. So friendship's not included in those, right? And it's more in later years that we've gotten into an elaboration of a larger number of relationships with Baba. And I'd be curious as to know what people's opinion or view on that evolution is. But for me, friendship is primarily about companionship. And in some ways, you might say that it's just that sense in which I don't feel alone or lonely in my spiritual journey. Because if we have someone's company, then we feel a certain level of satisfaction and fullness in life. And one of the things which really attracted me to the Brahma Kumaris, to having a Brahmin life, was the idea that I could have God as my companion in the same way that human beings take a companion, because I just felt things should be real, tangible, experienced, felt. Not that I just, adopt a belief system. Now all of a sudden I believe in God, and it's just like, my friendship was with my belief. That didn't work for me. I needed something more substantial than that. And so the idea that who Baba is, understanding how Baba is and how to connect, meant that actually a real relationship was possible. And that was definitely the major attraction for me. It's not a belief, you know, I may or I may not believe in God, but it's irrelevant in Raj Yoga because it's not a belief, it's a relationship. It's like, do I believe in Raki or do I believe in Ombai? They're actual individual beings, and I can interact with them, I can exchange energy with them, I can experience them. And that was very much how Baba pulled me onto this path, was the experience of his vibrations, his energy, his company. And I mean, in some ways, it's not even his energy or his vibrations or his company. I know, because it sometimes he can create such a agendered image or visualization. We're thinking of maleness in a body conscious way, but it's just that light energy of the supreme, the divine energy of God, the love of God, and experiencing the feelings from the mind, from the heart, from the conscious being that is Shiv Baba. And that's the being that I got attracted to have as my companion, as my friend. And that's really, I feel, very important for each of us in our BK journey, because especially because we, many of us will be leading a life where there's an opportunity or a risk to feel alone, or that we're the only person, because we have a fairly strict lifestyle. And so to have Baba's company is so essential. In my BK life, I don't know that I've really felt alone much. Hardly, maybe once or twice for a little bit, but nothing that I can really remember. And I really feel that that's because I have Baba's company with me, and it's not gross in the way that um, human company is gross or obvious. The company of Shiv Baba is something subtle. And just because things are subtle doesn't mean they don't exist. From a more body conscious, science based or materialistic based perspective, I thought that, or I used to think that subtle was just a way of, describing something that's unimportant and doesn't really exist. But in spirituality, that which is subtle, that is where everything is hidden, actually, just in quotation marks. It's not really hidden because it's present, but hidden in the sense that if my intellect is gross, and that is on the level of consciousness, is not subtle or not refined, then it appears as if it's hidden. So in that sense, even the presence of God is hidden from humanity at this time, because people's intellects have become gross. That is, they've become body conscious, and it doesn't allow them to perceive or feel the subtle reality of Shiv Baba's presence in their life. I tend to think that for most of the cycle, people believed in God and they believed in religion because the intellect still had that level of subtlety and purity and refinement. And really, it's only in the last 100 years that we've seen such an enormous shift in the world. Like, if you study what human beings believe and how their beliefs have changed, in the last 100 years, the move away from and against religion has been massive. And I think a major part of that is to do with body consciousness and the fact that people haven't felt the presence of God in their lives anymore. They have removed that experience. But Baba is just as present as he ever was on the path of devotion. And of course, because we have Gyan, because we have knowledge, he's even more present. But as I was sharing earlier, it's about what is my internal understanding, because that is the basis of this relationship and this connection. And for 2,500 years, we've been so used to connecting to and relating to people in a gross way. And sometimes we may superimpose on Baba an expectation that he should relate to us in the way that we're used to relating to human beings. Human relationship, we validate and confirm connection through exchanging gifts, through talking and conversation, through hugging, through shaking hands, meeting, etc. We exchange energy in that way. And obviously, Baba doesn't have a corporeal form that we can interact with. Yes, many of us may have had the chance to meet Bap Dada in Madhaban, which is definitely a fantastic opportunity to confirm the feelings that we have for God coming down into the physical form here on earth. For me, that's a major part of my spiritual journey. But even if that hasn't been part of our experience, we still have the opportunity to connect to God through our mind and our intellect internally, because that's where God lies. Sometimes we say Baba, we find Baba in the silence, and that silence is our own internal mental silence, right? If my mind is crowded and noisy and blocked up with my own thinking, then it's very hard for God to find space to connect to me. I have to be able to make space for God to fit in my mind, right? And that's the same as human friendship. If I want to be friends with Ombai or with Sister Raki, and I meet them, and say I meet them for an hour, and the whole time I just talk and they just have to listen to me continuously for 1 hour, what will their experience be at that time? They will feel that, Dan is like, got a lot going on in his head, and I couldn't even share on my side how I feel or what my experiences have been. And so it's no different with Baba, that if it's all one-sided because I've got a lot of noise in my head, then it's hard to feel that friendship with the divine. Actually, the more I am internally quietening down and becoming more silent inside, then there's space for me to feel Baba's presence in my life. space for also like-mindedness. Another key ingredient to friendship is like-mindedness. Yeah. If you think about any of your friends that you have in this world, you're generally going to be more interested in people where you have found something in common, that there is some common bonds. It may be spirituality, it may be your professional career, it may be age, gender, but there's something in there which makes some common bond. Without that common bond, how do we relate and build shared understanding, which becomes the basis of friendship and shared values? And so I also need to build within myself some sort of like-mindedness with Shiv Baba. That's the closeness of friendship, right? The more there's closeness, the deeper the friendship will feel. And so my own internal quietness makes me more like-minded. And I'll try and give like a practical example of this to make it clearer or more tangible for you guys. This year I went on a silence retreat in one of the retreat centers here in Sydney. And it's quite a special retreat. We only have it once a year, and the retreat goes for 7.5 days. And for that silence retreat, of course, there's no talking. That's what a silence retreat is. But there is also no writing, no reading, no songs, no instrumental music, no eye contact with other participants in the retreat. Of course, no devices, no phones, laptops, tablets, etc. None of that. No classes. And also no caffeine and no sugar. So the diet is also not overly stimulating us, because there's a close connection we know between what we eat and how the mind performs or how the mind operates. And sometimes this is also a little bit popular in the Lokic world. They call like a dopamine detox, because a lot of these things create mental stimulation, which releases dopamine in the brain. And that sort of stimulation can be addictive to us. But anyway, the purpose of the retreat, because as you can see or visualize from what has been described, there's not much happening, right? Everything that you might use in your life to distract you from being with Baba is taken away. And of course, you willingly agree to renounce or let go of those things because you want to have a special experience, and that's what the retreat creates. So everyone, just the program each day is for 8 hours of yoga. There's no other program in the retreat. 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. bhakti, then meditation before Murli, then 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., 3-hour bhakti, and then evening time 4 to 6:30, 2.5-hour bhakti. So all in all, those sessions add up to 8 hours yoga a day. So the retreat is inspired by Sakar Baba's direction as well, that we should be having 8 hours of remembrance each day. He often shares that. And my experience in that retreat, seeing all the participants who have made that decision to renounce all those things and spend just over 7 days really focusing on themselves and their connection with God, and pardon me, and each one is alone with themselves. We're in a gathering, we have the enjoyment and the benefit of being in a gathering, and yet I've got nothing to distract myself from being alone with my own thoughts. And it creates such a beautiful and deep stillness inside, a deep internal silence. Of course, if there's some old layers of my body consciousness that may also come up to be removed and healed. Parts of my old self I can let go of through that process. But if you remember the point where I started this from, which was creating like-mindedness with God, for me, a major part of the whole retreat experience was I just felt within that internal silence and seeing the other participants so content and happy within themselves, and each one keeping to themselves because there's no interaction, not even through facial expression or eye contact. It gave me this beautiful feeling of what's the sort of personality that Shiv Baba has. Shiv Baba resides in the soul world. He's completely full within himself. He's content. He doesn't have a need to be validated or approved of or liked. He doesn't, he's not troubled whether we like him or not, whether we agree that he exists or not. He's just there and he's himself, full and complete. And like the silence retreat, he's also in silence, right? Shiv Baba's there and he's in deep internal silence. He's not even in the corporeal world. And so he isn't requiring that we do anything or be anything. And really, I could see how it's on my side to make effort to reach out to him, and he will reciprocate or respond based on my feelings of love, based on my wish to have friendship with the divine. Because that's how an egoless being is. We're so used to interacting with layers of human personality which are based on ego that sometimes we think that God should conform to our way of building friendship and interaction, that he should speak to me, he should give me some message, he should make some effort on his side. Why doesn't he show himself? Why doesn't he do more? Why doesn't he help me with this or help me with that? And these are all, I feel, connected to our kind of limited intellect and body conscious way of thinking, trying to force God to be something that he's not, so that he conforms with my expectations of how a person should be or an individual should be. Whereas he's completely egoless, doesn't need to connect to us. It's not that by having us as his children, he somehow becomes fulfilled and therefore he's complete as a person. Yes, he has love for us, but we also have to express our love for him and connect with him, to reach out with our thoughts, with our inner world, to invite him to be part of it, to bring him into our lives. And so one beautiful realization for me in this retreat was that I can be a bit lazy in making Baba part of my life, that expecting him to do everything isn't going to work, and he's not worried about my expectations. But as soon as from my heart I reach out to Baba and I'm like dialoguing with him, opening that pilgrimage of remembrance up, connecting my consciousness to him, he's immediately there and he immediately reciprocates the energy I put out. He reciprocates with the same sort of energy. And it's very beautiful because I just feel like that's the sort of friendship I want, that God is with me and his subtle presence in my life, not demanding anything, not assuming anything, but with me in the most sort of gentle and humble way. It's a very different way of relating though. And I also had quite a bit of realization how, there's a sort of a subtle programming that my body conscious way of thinking wants to create relationship based in a certain way. And actually, to create relationship with God, it's based on who he is, how he is, what he is, not based on who Dan is, what Dan wants, how Dan thinks other people should be. It's not going to reach in that way. I need to let go of all the false layers of self that I hold, which stand between me and God, because that's where God lies. The fullness of my old self, like as in full of those layers of body consciousness, totally inhibits my ability to reach out, to connect, and to experience God. And everything I need to experience God in my life, I have right now within me. I have a mind, I have an intellect, I am aware, I'm a conscious being, and I can connect to Him. But it's so subtle because it's internal, it's within consciousness. And the response that Baba gives is also so subtle because it's based on my feelings, my ability to pick up his energy in the same way that I might pick up the vibes or the energy of other people or an atmosphere or a space that I go into. So that's how I can experience Baba's friendship and presence in my life, is making my own attention and awareness subtle. If I'm still on a really more external level of consciousness, then I make it hard for myself to experience Baba. And it's not Baba's fault and it's not my fault. I just haven't slowed down yet. And that slowing down is really internal, to do with my thoughts, the speed of my mind, and also the way that I run or manage my own life as well. And because obviously the two things are interconnected, right? If I run and manage my own life in a very speedy and accelerated way, then that can also push God out. I can end up, creating a lot of noise in my own head, in my own atmosphere around me. And that noise, that vibrational energy that I'm putting out, may also sort of dislodge God's friendship from my life. And it's not that, you know, it's not anything on God's side. And, then sometimes there can be a tendency that we blame God for not doing certain things or being a certain way. But really, I need to understand Baba, what he is, what he does, and then that helps me let go of my expectations, because if he doesn't have a capacity to do a whole bunch of things, then what's the point in me thinking that he should conform or perform according to those? It's much better to have an expectation, if you like, of him according to what he is and how he operates and what he does as a purely vibrational being, as an energetic being that doesn't have a physical presence, as an egoless being that is fully complete and content within himself, as a being that will always reciprocate or respond to the invitations of love from the children. But he doesn't force himself in. He doesn't have any of his own needs. So it's like it's up to each of us to bring him into our lives, with a loving heart, to open up and talk to Baba, because the energy of that dialogue, that invitation reaches and he reciprocates, he comes back and responds to us. It's like in the Sakar Murli when Baba says, remembrance begets remembrance. I mean, begets is a very funny old English word that gets used in the translation, but basically remembrance invokes remembrance. My vibrations reach Baba, and Baba's vibrational energy responds or comes back to me. And when my mind and intellect are clear, then I'll experience that. I will feel Baba's presence. And definitely in that silence retreat, I had such good feelings of Baba's company and Baba's presence, because it's like a long-standing invitation that, Baba, I'm putting aside everything else, and for this period of time, I'm just focusing on you. And I mean, how many times have we heard man above? Be mine with your mind, or belong to me with your mind. Various translations and elaborations of that word. But really, that word is the invitation to bring Baba into my life, but with my mind, with my thoughts. It's into my internal world, right? And it's within our internal worlds that we can experience friendship with the divine. And for sure, you know, people might say that, doesn't that mean, oh, sorry, just a bit of cramp in my leg. Doesn't that mean that God is just in our imagination? And um, there will always be, I guess, scope for that criticism for any human endeavor, right? That the imagination, and it's a subtle inner world that, yes, imagination can distort and impact on the inner world, but actually any religion, any spirituality, any connection to God will always be vulnerable to that criticism, always. And the simple reason for that is I'm a soul. I am a I am a being of light. I am a spiritual being. And therefore I actually only exist within my own subjective experience. I'm not an externally verifiable phenomenon, and nor is God. So those who are worried about imagination will always be worried about it. And those who are able to have faith in their own experience and who are able to recognize themselves as souls based on spiritual knowledge and recognize God won't worry too much about imagination. I think the main thing with imagination is that actually people have lost faith in their own inner world, and therefore they're worried that their inner world is vulnerable to all sorts of external influences. And mainly that's because we've abused our inner worlds. We've abused our inner worlds with drugs, alcohol, and also with violent emotions, where the inner world has become so polluted that imagination, paranoia, mental illness, all of these things actually have become really significant. But when we control the variables, all the things that distort and fluctuate the inner world, and it becomes more stable, then there's a natural faith that stands inside of us. And it's just the faith or the awareness that I am a spiritual being. And as a spiritual being, I'm a child of the divine, and I have a connection. And whether you call that connection, whichever relationship you like, I think it, in many ways, it reflects what relationship we feel we need. Because for me, the relationship with Baba is primarily like a flow of love and pure vibrations. And if I feel the need for friendship, or I feel the need for guidance, or I feel the need for teachings, then I might look at that energy, connect to Baba based on that sort of relationship. I'm not someone who feels that I need to sort of like partition everything down into this relationship and that relationship. I often quite like just to think that, God is my companion, and I don't mind a huge amount which particular relationship it is, but for me, it's enough that that divine being is with me. So anyway, at this point, I'm quite keen to see how you're going and hear any comments or questions or feedback. Make sure you're still there, and Raki or Ombai, if
Yeah.
any, do you?
Om Shanti,
Om
brother.
Shanti.
Yes, we could experience the bonding, which you have described with the Supreme Almighty. I would like to just ask, maybe a question or this one that, or just a sharing that Nyara and Pyara Sthiti, the
Mhm.
Nyara and Pyara Sthiti with the Supreme, that any true relationship, when you spoke about that true relationship, there is a flow of true love and
Mm,
the true vibration from the heart. So, and the true love, this symbol of the true love, the test of the true love is that it will make you bondage free. It will
mhm,
make you bondage free. It will make you independent, realize the unlimited potential within you in the inner world, and that reflects, of course, in the external world too. So, so
mm.
feeling belongingness yet detached. When so, how do you describe this Nyara and Pyara? Which Baba speaks about in the Murli.
Yeah, I mean, we're sometimes I feel for me that the clarity comes when Baba sometimes says also that you're detached from the body and loving to the Father. So it's what we're detached from and what we're loving to. Because in our other human relationships, we are loving as instruments. Like sometimes in Sakar Murli, you'll hear Baba say, all our true-hearted love should be for the one Father.
Yes.
So, in terms of internally within my inner world, where I direct my love, I'm not directing it to human forms. I'm directing it to God. And even in today's blessing in the Avyak Murli today, Baba talks about, the lotus seat and becoming detached from the physical body and thereby loving to God. And so Nyara, I feel, is fundamentally that I'm detached from my physical form. And that includes all the internal subtle layers. I'm detached from Dan, all the
Mm.
things that I think Dan are or Ombai is. That's just a word that other people use to get my attention, right? Dan is like a file of history that comes with this body, but it's not who I am. I'm not even Dan. Um, I'm not the child of two human beings. That's as soon as I think I'm the child of two human beings, I've gone back into my body conscious identity. I'm in that space. And then naturally, I won't be detached because I've put myself back into my old attached identity, which is holding on to all my physical labels. So I feel that fundamentally we'll never really be that uh, loving unless we first break the attachment to the false labels of self. And for me, it's in that breaking and it's in that internal silence that I really find a deeper and closer connection to Baba as well, because it's in there that truth lies. Within each of us, there is very deep truth. That's the fundamental nature of every human soul, to recognize and connect with our own internal truth. But that truth is in stepping away from all of the physical external things that the soul has been holding on to because the soul lost power. today's Avyak Murli is all about how the soul has lost power and souls just need power to let go of all those external labels, external things, so that they can re-establish themselves in their own internal original truth, who they really are and who's really got value. So for me, that's loving and detached. Ombai, I hope that clarifies.
Actually, yeah. Thank you, brother, for giving that insight into loving and detached.
Mhm. Any other comments that anyone in the group would like to make, or questions that people would like to ask? You're most welcome to ask something or share something.
Om Shanti, brother.
Om Shanti Raki
On
Ben.
the point that you made, that this is one place, this is one friend where you actually listen the sound in silence. So in the Lokik world, there's a lot of interaction, and one would need to initially want to speak to the person that you are connected as a friend. But it is this friendship, this divine friendship, wherein you know you're being listened, you're being heard, and only I, the soul, need to make myself available to listen to that sound in silence that's coming back.
Mm.
And for me, that is like breaking that ice of first to get in that world of silence. And what really touched me is the 8-hour silence retreat experience that you spoke about. It's like
Mm.
you're there, yes, you're in a silence retreat, but you're not even allowed to see the other person's face or look into somebody's eyes, and just experience that you are yourself connecting with the Supreme Father. And
Mm.
that there is the practice for me to take on, as to how much time can I put across in silence, elevate and increase that time in silence to experience the presence of my friend and my companion with me, and make myself available. So we always say that God is there always, the divine is there, but am I making myself available to
Mm.
listen to and get those messages from him? So thank you for sharing the silence retreat experience. I think that's a practice which really touched.
Mm. Thank you, Sister Raki. You reminded me of one thing about the retreat as well. I mean, by all means, if anyone else has anything, you're welcome to put your hand up. But while you think about it, I'll just share one thing, which is, the nature of our inner world is that it is the main thing in all of our lives. We spend 8 hours a night purely in our inner world, right? When we sleep, what is active? It's the processing and going through our inner world, the subconscious mind, our dreams. And then even as we're awake during the day, the thing that controls us is what's happening inside. Yes, there's a world happening outside, but it's the inner world which is more powerful. It's the inner world which decides what direction we go, what we do, what we have for breakfast. Everything is based on what's going on inside of us. But in our normal day-to-day life, because of our mental energy going into the sense organs, we have a lot more focus and attention on the external world. And our internal world can often just kind of be in the background. We sort of know it's there, but our attention isn't on it. Our energy doesn't go to it. And having some sort of practice like those silence retreats is basically to reverse this imbalance and to say, okay, I'm going to put a period of time aside where I really bring to life my inner world and I take my attention away from all the normal things of my external sensory world. Because it's like the inner world really comes to life when we do that. It comes to life because we're intentionally putting focus and energy on it that allows it to grow, and we see it in a much more pronounced and significant way than we have in the past. And it doesn't matter who you are, what your lifestyle, or what you do, it will impact everyone in a significant way because it naturally brings it out. And the only, I guess, caveat or like warning or caution that I would put on it is that it highlights your inner world no matter what is happening in your inner world. So if you're having sweet experiences of Baba in yoga, they will be deeper and more profound. But if you have a bit of Maya, then you can really get thrown around in one of these retreats as well. Because, all the normal ways that we will cope with a little bit of mental distress, maybe writing it down, maybe talking to a friend, maybe distracting ourselves by watching YouTube or whatever, all of those are taken away, right? You can't run off and listen to your happy song to make yourself get your stage back together because there's no happy songs available. So the only coping mechanism you have for dealing with a bit of Maya as well is managing it yourself with your own mind and being responsible for it. So that's the only slight caution or warning with the retreat, as well as it amplifies everything. So it amplifies your inner life. Cool. Bajith, I see your hand is up. So if you can unmute yourself and share, that would be awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Pradesh. So it was wonderful hearing your experience that you had in your retreat center. So that was something really nice. I think we should also try to create that sort of an atmosphere where no sound, no music, no class, no talking, no looking at each other, and then experiencing Baba in that space. Yes, that would be really wonderful. Something that I look forward to see or experience in my, the speaker life. So experiencing the divine friendship, right? So I would just like to ask a question. So this is possibly, I had this question how to begin that. Okay, so as in when I try to experience that, right, as a friend, Baba. So often I feel there is a gap because maybe I was finding it difficult to interact with Baba as a friend, because we know friendship is, having a good friend is always good, because that is where we'll open our heart. Right, so we laugh, eat, and entertain ourselves with friends. So that's everybody create that world, right, with friends, and they everybody opens up, right. So it's very important that we create a divine friendship with God, so that we open up our heart with God. So this when we look at Baba, right? So naturally, possibly, yeah, the relationship that immediately comes in my mind is a father, okay? Because maybe I was looking at him, the Brahma Baba's photo, and then in that show Baba. So by seeing, Brahma Baba is that old man, right? So kind of make it easy for me to interact with him as a father and son. Okay. So, and when you were explaining, you also said that you detach yourself, right, from the Dan, right? And then you interact, right? So you interact as a barista form, or you interact as a point form, and then as a friend. I'm asking here. So how do you, I mean, I find this part a little difficult when I see myself and then, put myself with Baba, right? I feel sometimes there is a gap, and though I want to experience Baba as my friend, but sometimes it end up me experiencing him as a father instead of a friend.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you can elaborate a little more on that, how I should make this relationship more firm or more experiential.
Cool. Thanks. Bijith. Is it Bijith?
Yeah.
So I feel in some ways like I wouldn't worry too much about it if I was you, because if you're feeling Baba as your father, then it's not that you have to sort of push yourself to have sort of like this every relationship with Baba. Like many people feel that actually in the relationship of father, they fully open up and share everything. And as a father, it's like there's that wiser older person that can guide us and give suggestions and solutions and help us. And the energy of friendship, for me, is as much as anything, it's the energy of companionship, that God is the one who is with me. So I don't have a sense in which I feel that I'm missing something. As a Kumar, it's not really true that I'm a Kumar, right? Because God is my companion. Just for people that don't have knowledge, we use words like that. But actually, those sorts of words, I don't think should really be in our heart, because God is my companion, God is my beloved. And so that is the one who is with me. But it's not that for me, like, I don't get clinical about it or analytical about it. So for me, friendship, for example, and I often will just see myself as a soul, and it's like I pan around to the front and see the point of light from outside myself, and I allow my thoughts to travel to Shiv Baba, to the supreme abode. These days I don't really feel much at all that I'm like flying away from my body. I feel very present in the room where I am, but very detached or away from Dan, away from the sense or familiarity of myself. And in that, I feel connected to God's energy. And I still feel like there's a much deeper level of attachment, a much deeper level of detachment that I need to achieve in terms of the different layers of my own ego identity, because it's like I'm on this journey of gradually removing falseness from within myself. And I certainly have a lot more falseness to remove within myself. And that brings closeness to Baba. But whether you call him father, friend, teacher, beloved, I feel it doesn't, in a sense, matter. But I think you mentioned the main thing, which is that we feel close, we feel there's someone we share with, we feel that we open up, because that's really important. That I don't feel that I'm keeping anything separate from Baba, and whatever is troubling me, I am sharing with him, because he understands. But I feel the way Baba usually understands me is in a much deeper way than I even understand the problem, or than I understand myself, if that makes sense. Sometimes I feel that this is the problem and I need this sort of a solution, but actually Baba is seeing things at a much deeper level than I'm operating on. In the same way that the daddies, Diddy, Nirmala, Charlie Bai, when I interact with them, they also often catch or see things at a much deeper level. They're not seeing things just on the level that I come and talk to them about my problem, but they respond on a different level. They have a solution that I wouldn't have thought about because they're seeing it at a deeper level. So I think it's also like that in our relationship with Baba. We open up, we share, but he's going to be seeing things on a different level from what I'm presenting them to him as, if that makes sense.
Yeah, brother. Thank you so much.
No worries. Feel free to ask if there's something else that it triggered as an extra supplementary question, but
Om Shanti, that was wonderful sharing. And while you were sharing, I got this thought that the relationships, the father has various roles, which is described in the Murli: father, child, beloved companion, sergeant, and any relationship, father, teacher, Sadguru. But as you said, rightly said, that the deeper level when you go, then it's just you and him. And then it's like a one-on-one, and that companion, the loving companion, the most beloved companion you have in front of you. And that is achieved when we have shed all this falseness, uh, the labels which you said, na, Om Bhai, even Bhai, not Bahan, the sister. No? That is our big level, big level. So that's why Baba says, go to the deeper level of even the male-female consciousness, go to the root level, the seed level, beach sthiti, and that is the frequency, the ultra low frequency we could call it, or that frequency you are unlimited, equal to the Father, and then when there is equanimity, then there is a true exchange of energy and the love and the unlimited love that can't be described through this sound, or it could not be described from any of the five elements. So is that everything merges, all these relationships merges into one, and that's the Baba says, you and me, none other, only you, none other, and that is beyond this labels of father, teacher, Sadguru, and various other things. It's just you and him, and unlimited exchange of energy, and you feel equal to him, and you feel that unlimited love. I could elaborate on this. Om Shanti.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. So I understand that, thank you for clarifying it. So my practice that I should work upon is to uplift myself from this physical identity and then see myself as a point. That's practice that I must, work upon in order to experience Baba as a divine friend. Right. Thank you.
okay, no worries, Bijith. And yeah, Umbai, I feel the same way as what you shared then. Sometimes in the Murli, Baba describes himself as the saccharin, the sweetness of all relationships. It's like actually the connection with Baba, the essence of that yoga connection with Baba is the type of fulfillment that I don't need anything else. Through the feeling of his connection, I feel completely full within myself. And so in that sense, then we feel like there's no relationship missing in my life. But it's sort of, then it becomes a bit academic if we were to sort of try and describe that, Baba was this relationship, and then he was that relationship. He's also this relationship. Actually, he's taken the back door and done it all in stealth by going in from, as the seed, fulfilling everything.
Correct. Yes.
Om Shanti,
And
brother. If I may ask one last question to brother. Dear Dan, brother, could you tell me, with this friendship with Baba or this companionship with Baba, how has your outer world changed? Also, what sorts of energy or people do you attract to you, and how are your interactions further in the outer world? Thank you. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. What was your name, brother? Sorry, it just says Om Shanti Bhai.
Yes, my name is Vinod. Yeah,
No,
thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question because I mean, naturally, as we transform inside, it brings changes in our external life and our external environment. And if I think about your question, how has the connection with Baba brought changes in my external environment? I guess that's been the journey of surrender, as we talk about it, in the sense that the more I've felt close to Baba and that I want to be sort of part of Baba's world has also become my world in a major way. And I'm not suggesting that, I'm always mindful that sometimes people feel that only if I am in a surrendered part, I'm closer to God. And I don't feel that's true at all. I feel that there are many, many examples of people who are what we sometimes call trustee souls, who are far closer to Baba than someone who may be, quote, in quotation marks, surrendered is, because it's about what's happening inside us and our consciousness. But in my journey, answering your question, it's because of Baba's part within my life that I feel fulfillment, so that I don't need anything from my external roles and responsibilities. And so that's why I'm staying in Sydney as a surrendered brother, is because, what else is there left to get fulfillment from in this old world? I don't feel that there's anything really. So that's my answer.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vinod Bhai. So Raki Ben, Ombai, do we have meditation together now for a little bit? Is that the next?
Yes, brother.
We can start the meditation.
And what do we do normally do for the meditation? Is there something I should do for that?
Yeah, brother, you can focus on this the divine relationship with the Supreme as a companion on this theme, and uh, and then after meditation, I'll just we'll go for the concluding session.
In just 3 or 4 minutes, is that correct?
Sure, 2-3 minutes. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Om Shanti. I bring the attention of myself, my mind's eye, back inside to my inner self. I, the soul, the child of God, a beautiful, luminous star of light energy. It's as if I'm looking at myself from the outside. I can see my face, but I can also see a beautiful jewel of light in the center of the forehead. Looking out through these eyes, I, the soul, can connect to Shiv Baba just with the thread of thinking about him. He becomes present in my mind's eye. seeing his form like mine. My companion is also a beautiful, radiant star of divine light. I'm emerging my remembrance of God and feeling the pure light energy, the divine vibrations of my supreme friend. I, the soul, visualizing Shiv Baba in my sweet home, I am like a conduit, a channel, bringing his pure energy down into this corporeal world. Each of us has the special role of bringing God's vibrations and energy into this physical world through our mind and intellect, through our connection with Him. Om Shanti.
That was a wonderful experience, I must say. Uh, this is our privilege to have your August presence in the month of August in this with this divine family, with the Dan, and you have brought out so many pearls of wisdom, that how is the soul consciousness way of thinking, and how is the body consciousness way of thinking, and it's the soul consciousness which connects with Baba and makes him the supreme companion, the best friend, whom we can share unconditionally. And he does respond in the terms of, he lifts you up, and then entire world is your family. Thank you, Brother Dan, for enlightening us, elevating us. And it was a wonderful session, and we look forward for more such sessions from you, brother. That commitment we would like to, with love, we would like to request you. And I'm sure you will be giving us this opportunity and to be here. And thank you on behalf of the Divine Family. I thank you with a loving heart, uh, for such sharings of your experiences, which will definitely enlighten us. Thank you. Thank you.
Shanti.
Om
Thank you.
Shanti.
Bye. Om Shanti. Thank you,
Om
everyone. Lovely to meet you
Oh,
online.
thank you.
Okay. See you all. Bye.